Sorry to be standing between you and your lunch, as he anticipated, but I tried to make it short as hopefully painless. Digital transformation, I've heard many, many comments this morning. It was very interesting and enlightening to be here. And so many distinguished guests expressing their points of view. And everything that was said was right, in fact, because this is an ongoing experimental phase that the whole world is undertaking. So this is not a Pakistani problem, in fact. This is global. And being global, every area, every geography in the world has trying to attack the problem from a sort of local point of view, which is global in the technology, in the mindset, and local in the application, in the execution. That has to deal with different culture, this has to deal with different starting points, different levels of maturity, etc. What I will try to bring you through today is a walk of real experiences and hard-earned experience, I should say, in many, many different banks around the world, mostly in Europe. Europe, I can say without any problem, has probably the most advanced banking system in the world. There is no such a thing in North America, and banks are doing very, very sophisticated things there. We are, you know, a very large economic region, the largest in the world by now. Still, we don't know in the future. It might not be in the future. It probably won't be, but for the time being, it is. And so that's why you will see many experiences coming from my region. But I hope that what I will say will be food for thought for you today. So if it works, it works here. There you go. Now, it is interesting how technology is difficult for me today. You know, when you ask CEOs, and this is a recent survey, 2017, the end of 2017, early 2018, if I remember, CEOs around the world, you know, in financial services. So this includes banking, includes insurance companies and other financial services. What are the main concerns? Technology comes only fifth, which is weird in my view. Of course, you've got over-regulation because, you know, everybody's stressed by over-regulation. So this is concern number one. You got uncertain economic growth. You can't do much about that. The world is going, how it's going. You can try to influence that, but there's not much you can do. And the same for geopolitical uncertainty. And cyber threats is beyond your possibilities. It comes in, so you have to defend yourself and learn how to be resilient, but this is something you cannot control. However, technology you can control, you can do something, you can actually surf the wave and turn that potential problem into a point of strength, into an advantage for you. But it is also a fact that out of statistics, at board level, and this was addressed just a few minutes ago, 1 out of 10, executives do understand a little bit about technology. So how do you reconcile this threat and the need to turn that into an advantage with the actual problem of illiteracy, digital illiteracy? And when you have digital illiteracy at board level, bear with me, you can't have a digital strategy because it's not understood. You can't have a proper push down at any level and a mandate to the CEO because it's not clear, and so on. So it all starts from there. So if you got problems, banks in executing a digital strategy, blame your board first. And if they don't fire you, you can propose alternatives. And here are some alternatives that I hope we will. How does it work? Sorry.
So this is the forward button?
Yeah, but I should point to where? Anywhere?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Here is a bank. Here is a bank, and the bank lives in a context. So you got the bank that needs to move towards technology. He needs to adapt to incoming pushes from the technology sector. New opportunities are there. Here is a bank that is suffering from technology push, okay, from outside in. And you got something that will disrupt your business unless you adapt very quickly to. And here you got infrastructure and telco players that put pressure on you also because they own the data. You don't. They understand how to use the data. You don't. Okay, so that's pressure. And you got these techies from around the world, that are so arrogant. And they come in and try to bite you and take pieces of your business. Payment, micropayment, done in a fintech way, very creative ways. And your business, you feel the pressure. And then you've got regulators that say, no, you can't do that. It's impossible. It's bad. And you got customer behaviors. Since this thing was invented and has been insisted so many times this morning, this thing has changed the world because the power is in the hands of the consumer. And then you got emerging technologies, yet new. What is robot process automation, for God's sake? What it is. How do you pretend that at board level they understand that and the implication of that unless you educate them and unless they understand how this can be a great opportunity for that bank, and there is also a social impact that they have to take care of because it's not only technology, it's also the social aspect. You don't deal with machines, you deal with people. Your stuff is made of people. You have to handle that. You have to change the mix of skills. That is a daunting engagement. It doesn't happen overnight. So if you take a decision today, it will take time to implement and see the benefits. And last but not least, investors that are ready to move money across the world. So you might be left the day after out in the cold without even knowing that, unless you provide ROI. So all this is adding pressure. Do you feel it? From what I heard this morning, you do, here in Pakistan, as they do next door, as they do in Europe, as they do in North America, and anywhere. So this is a global problem. It's not a Pakistan problem, okay? It's a global problem. So everyone around the world, that's how I started off, has tried to understand what this is about. Customers migrate very quickly, Customers migrate very quickly to digital, and from digital, I must say, from bank to bank. There is legislation that was passed in several European countries. Now in the UK, you can move from one bank to the other cost-free in a couple of days. The same happens in Italy, in France, etc. And the bank has the obligation to pass your data on to the next bank. So basically, you lose a customer, and you've got work to do. So it's a cost. Is that acceptable? How much does it cost you to win a new customer? Do the math. And it's simply unacceptable. So you have to defend your position. I think you name defending as a very strong, important, relevant point. You're right. First is defense. But you do not defend by building fences. You defend by offering opportunities, paving the way for your customer to be a happy customer. A fact. That's a fact, number one. By 2025, that's the number. All analysts are in agreement with this. Number two, that's an interpretation. Okay? Because if you got devices that are connected, there's nothing else for you that handle with an enormous amount of data. And if your customer is connected, and your retail customer, the consumer, or your corporate customer, the business, is connected, which are two different kinds of connections, by the way, and two different kinds of relationships, but still, that is our definition of digital. So you have to understand this and put this in the context of your own business and see what you can do. When you have zillions of data, you do not talk about reporting. When I go to banks, I still hear talking about reporting. which is frankly like talking about, carving in the stone in the era of computer, and the real machine learning. Now, this is something which is a huge wealth. Somebody called it the oil of the 21st century. But the oil of the 21st century is meaning nothing for anyone unless you know how to extract value from that oil. So from the actual petrol, oil, you extract petrol, you extract paraffin and other derivatives. You are very good in extracting derivatives from the financial assets. Here you should do the same, value from the data. The value from the data has one definition only: knowledge. Knowledge. So you have to think of your bank as migrating towards a knowledge environment, which implies exactly what I also heard this morning, how you change the mindset. How do you educate your people to interpret the figures in a context? What is the semantics of your business in view of your customers? How do you retain and appeal to your customers if you do not understand and know your customer? And also, examples of technology like robot process automation, will allow you to understand that you are not far away from the leading pack. The leading pack is just starting. Some are there already advanced. But basically, there is time to catch up because the others, the early movers, will make mistakes, have made mistakes. And you can learn from mistakes, their mistakes, cost-free. But then you have to be in a learning mode and experimenting. Okay? Now, a few quotes here. This is a gentleman that you might consider, well, he's not a banker. He's a, fintechs, a techie. But what he says is very important, okay? And this is true. This journey has just started, and somebody said it this morning also. But the problem is, you start a journey, but where are you heading to? I mean, you can start anyway, off here, off there. The problem is, do you know where you want to end? You know what the end of your journey? It will never be an end of your journey, by the way. That's the answer. But at least a direction there must be, because you must have a vision and a dream. You must, because, this is another statement coming from not a secondary fellow, okay? Some of your businesses, some of the businesses in the financial sector are very strong, resilient. They have specific conditions to thrive and flourish. Others will be weaker, okay? The problem is that those that are weak enough should be able to look at themselves in the mirror and tell themselves, we are vulnerable. We have to adapt. We have to change. You cannot really be resilient beyond a certain point. You either adapt or disappear. That's Darwinian, but that's how it is. Another big guy in your sector here. Okay, this is a prediction which is doomsday for the banking sector. Okay, 20,000 banks will be a few dozens digital banks in a few years from now. It won't happen tomorrow morning. It won't happen not even next week. Be reassured. Okay, but it will happen in a very short time span, so short that you can't even imagine. Let me see whether by the end of the decade, 29, 30, 31, 20, 30, 30, 31, you will recognize the banking industry the way you see it today. It won't be the same because it's not only a transition phase, there is an acceleration there. And when that acceleration kicks in, it's exponential. And there is a, snowball effect. And this is what is happening now, and we're just in the early stages, so we are still flat. But the dynamics is there, and the equation brings there. And last but not least, a great quote from a gentleman that, in terms of money, is second to none. Okay? And that's what he says is very true. We don't need banks. Why do we need banks? We need banking. So the bank, and there was a great definition this morning, has to be transparent, has to disappear. You don't have to see the bank. You have to use the bank. But the problem here is that if the bank disappears and sits in your pocket and lives with you day by day, all throughout the day, then it's another thing, and it's a great opportunity for the bank. And this is your bank again. So we've heard this morning that you need to reconsider better, the bank as designed around the customer. And she's the customer. She owns you. She is paying for your salary. She is your boss, your real boss, not the board. She is your boss. Whether she is in with you and does business or she's out, well, you have a problem, okay? So you have to redesign this bank around her. And redesigning a bank around her is easy to say, but it's not so clear, you know. What do we mean by that? Let me give you an example. 2 minutes, a movie, I shut up, you enjoy the movie. I hope the volume is high enough, and we go.
Hey Ben, should I keep renting? What's an average down payment? How do people like me buy a house? So how do I get started? I can do that. Transfer 200 to savings. Skip the coffee shop.
Love to live here. Ben, how much are homes going for in this area?
And this one, maybe this one. Thank you. This is it. Hey, Ben. How are you? Come on in.
Thank you.
No problem.
So you found a house.
This one's my favorite.
Well, I calculated your total costs, and I'm glad to say it's within your budget.
Let's sign some paperwork. So, Ben, what's next?
Now, what did she do? She lived her life, a few days, sometimes in her life. She lived naturally every day, and the bank was always with her, advising, supporting, anticipating. and there was a robot process automation. Ben was a robot, and Ben was a human being. So there was a seamless transition between physical and digital presence of the bank, because you can't think of a digital bank being as only digital. You know, when you call to someone on the call center, it's a human being that responds to you, and you expect a human being to respond to you, but you can take on a robot for many, you know, basic stuff. So you have to be used to, and you have to know how to use different tools. Like a keyboard, you know, you have to know which keys to play in order to produce the right music. What the bank did here with augmented banking, connected to real estate to provide the prices of the different houses, GPS, positioning her, knowing where she was in order to alert her, anticipate, because of course she gave the bank permission to interact with her that way, so privacy is safeguarded, etc., was that the bank built around her a sort of cocoon, that's the bank, connecting her to an ecosystem where she lived. Now, that was housing, but she moves, and she does study, and you know, she spends money and so on. And this is what we have done in a few large, very large, and middle-sized institutions. To do that, you know, we use a sort of variety of tools, and this is an omni-channel approach. And you see omni-channel in many banks totally detached by that sort of routing into the ground of the ecosystem. Why ecosystems are important? Because if you as a bank offer a variety of services, you have many more touch points. And in a digital economy, you don't sell one product with high markup. You look for volumes. This was said this morning as well. And this is one way to generate volumes. Many microtransactions will generate, with a constant flow out of millions of clients, a pretty decent constant flow of revenues. And you lock in your client in terms of loyalty, because you facilitate her life, okay? Not because you got discounted rates. It's because you facilitate her life, because you provide value. This thing has become ubiquitous instant success because it facilitates life. The app has been a success, the concept of the app, because it facilitates life, not because it was free. Actually, many apps are for, you know, you pay for them. So the point is that you need to provide actually perceived value, real value. Now, how to do that? Your bank is here today, and the bank, your bank, will want to be there tomorrow. You got basically three options there. And this is not about bad or pure execution of digital strategy. This is how to get it to the transition there. Then, of course, if you got a poor strategy, you will have a poor result, whether you execute well or not. And if you have a poor execution, whether you have a good strategy or not, it won't make any sense. So there is no dichotomy between the two. You have to have a good strategy and a good execution. Otherwise, you will fail. Anyhow, you will fail. So here, you've got three basic options. You might look digital. And this is a makeup story. I heard this morning there was a lipstick thing. That's the same thing that, the same term that I use. Basically, you keep everything old you have today, you retain that, you do some makeup in the front, it's the front end, you provide some customer experience, which is appealing, which is good looking, etc. But basically, the bank looks new, but everything is old inside, with its performance, whatever that is. You go for the other direction, and you want to feel digital, so you work on the engine, you do the plumbing, okay? You do all the performance improvement inside house, but basically you keep pushing to market the same old products in the same old way, okay? This is a good exercise to gain performance, if you want, okay? You lubricate your processes, you lubricate your machinery, if you want, okay? And there you are digital inside, but you're not completely connected to the ecosystem. So the two have to come together in being digital, which is an exercise of fusion of the two approaches. You can start from either one, to get to the middle one, which is the future and the solution. But wherever you have to start, you have to have clear in mind that your roadmap, however winding, has to get there. That's what we call a strategy. How to get there and how you want to be is a vision. How to get there is a strategy, and the execution is the pathway that you will choose, bouncing across those boundaries, and you will be giving priorities to this or that, or you work in parallel, micro projects, pilots. You will learn by example, trial and error, throw away the error, restart, and so on. And to do that, you must have the endorsement of the board all the way down. A few examples of real names of transformation that have gone along those paths. Those are real projects, all of them, okay? And the most successful digital bank for years in the world has been mBank, and mBank is also, we are proud, we were helping them, and it's a dramatic case of a spin-off of an actual bank, traditional bank, that grew so big by basically swallow and digest mother. So that is the end, the destiny of all banks. That's the full transformation. Okay, so forget lipstick per se, forget the plumber per se, think of a digital life to inject within your bank, which is the right direction to go. Now, in order for that to happen, avoid many pitfalls, but 5 are paramount, and I would like to express them before I close my presentation, because those are really relevant, and as we bear still the scars, or error and mistakes that we have made learning along the curve, I would like to share them with you. Number 1, fundamental, and this is coming from the board, top down. Semantics, that matters. Fuzzy definitions will bring to different results. If you say something and not everybody's fully aligned on the meaning of what you are saying, you got a small diverted angle today. In some time, it will be a huge distance, and you will see your whole building weakening. So, semantics matters. Fuzzy definitions should be avoided. Clarity, simplicity, clear vision, clear definition for everyone, from top management, middle management, and yes, top tier, tier 1 and tier 2 management. All the way down if possible, because education is a starting point for the process. If you want, here, you're plowing the land, the soil, in order for the seeds to be sown and finally germinate, if possible. Point number 2, and this is also an overlooked problem. Digital economy is not traditional economy or better. The economics of digital are not the same of the economic of an analog institution. So you have to understand them well, work them out, and do the business case appropriately. I was mentioning before that, what you push out to market now, it's a financial product with some markup, it has a cost, etc. Here, if you're looking to provide connection to an ecosystem of possibilities, you have to partner with partners, number 1. So you have to do revenue sharing. As simple as that, okay? Revenue sharing, well, comes from a different logic. It works on volumes, on discounted volumes, on projections, and the execution upon those projections. So even the sales cycle will be different, because you have to educate your people to propose things in a different way, okay? So the economics of a digital situation are not the economics of an analog situation. Master them, understand them, figure out on a sandbox experimental, limited examples within the bank, so that you can control and you can, learn from immediately. Third point, the bank, in order to be providing actual valuable services to the client, needs to be connected to an ecosystem, because the client does not live in a vacuum. It is living in an ecosystem, which makes it local. That's why you banks are so well poised to win against the fintechs and startups and all these other competitors, because you are rooted on a territory. And this is your analog part that will never go away, hopefully, because this is your imprinting. And this is a value, a huge value, which should not be forgotten. Yet the ecosystem you connect to can be local or can be global, or both, or a combination, So you have to be able to let your people educate again, once again, your people, to understand that this is not a monolith, living there, but you live within a context. And this implies another thing, that the moment you start cooperating with other entities, the example before, the real estate companies in that neighborhood, you start exchanging data. The moment you start exchanging data, you open up your doors. The moment you open up your doors, you got cybersecurity as a problem. Huge problem. But that's not should be stopping you. Don't let it stop you. We live in a world as this. We don't have an armor. We don't have a mask. We have antibodies. So reconsidering even your cybersecurity strategy, shifting from building walls, which is data security, open up to new methods, and there are technologies there doing that, which is intelligence applied to your data flows, etc., but that protect you against attacks and other situations, which can be phenomenal, for your business. That's a good strategy, but you have to be open. You can't close up because you are scared. Otherwise, you will die. It is going to be sterile. You can't do business if you do not exchange, and if you can't exchange, if you have, if you have fear. So that's another very important problem. Fourth, don't focus on the wrong enemies. You got enemies out there. You got competitors, and the big ones will come, But Alibaba, for example, is not a competitor. It's a great partner. We did a partnership, UniCredit in Italy with Alibaba for payments, and we did the same partnership with Apple Pay, and they work beautifully together. No problem. A bank that has 30 million customers, well, Alibaba is happy to work with them. They want to provide connectivity, basically, and payment system. They make money exchanging commission, ripping commission off exchanges. And a bank is bringing a huge number of transactions, micro transactions. If you follow my ecosystem model before, you connecting the consumer, your customer to the ecosystem. And your real enemies are your competitors, local competitors, which will rush like you to get there. And this is a winner-takes-it-all game. The first who will get there will win. And that's what in digital economy we have seen in these years. You will grow bigger, the first will grow bigger, the other will struggle to get there. Last point, and not least, don't forget that you're a bank. And however digital you will be, you will also be physical. So you will end up being phygital to some degree. Okay, and this blend of physical and digital is up to you, but the physical part will never disappear. That is your value, if it's rooted on the ground and if it is transformed in an asset. And to do that, you have to transform your branches, reduce perhaps the numbers, redesign your branches, have light branches automated, you have normal branches, which are more advisory venues. When I go to a branch, I want to find serious consultant there, serious advisor that help me and propose to me new ways to better manage my investments, for instance, or something like that. I don't want to do transactions. I can do them on the app, or on another branch, or an automated kiosk. But when I walk into a branch, I expect to see more like a coffee shop, a pretty stylish one, by the way, where people that understand the business help me and suggest me operation, and that what the bank brings to me. And all this has to be enabled by technology. So you cannot think of doing this without reconsidering in a depth, and I know that I will have many enemies now here, the IT operations of your bank. It is not possible to carry on for the future with the IT operations that you have now. Doesn't work. The skills, the organization, the objectives, the metrics of success and failure are totally different. Number one, when you cater to the consumer, to the customer, you have to dedicate yourself, focus yourself on what they want and what they need. So you have to organize yourself towards the customer, front end. At the same time, the back end needs to be there. Compliance, risk, protection, data security, etc. need to be there. So you have to decouple back end and front end very strongly in order to have a light operation in the back end, which is basically the engine that does the number crunching, okay, the transaction processing, and the front end where most of your resources are doing everything they can do, basically in a customer-centric way, where also the data models are built around the customers. Again, there are technologies that integrate existing databases, existing systems, and can allow you to use a semantically sensible, context-dependent representation of the user according to your profile, your job in that moment. We have developed one such technology, for instance, with Vodafone, and when you call Vodafone, they immediately know everything about you from different perspectives, from a risk profile, from a commercial profile, from a performance profile, from a usage of services profile. You get everything, you know everything about the person who's talking to you, like that. And this is what a bank should do, transform their call center into cockpits, where the pilot that sits in the cockpit see the call coming and has a complete view of the client, understands everything about the client, because then can redispatch the call to the appropriate advisor, to the appropriate senior manager, or the person that is most appropriate to handle the problem, if it's a problem, or the person that is most appropriate to handle the opportunity, if that is an opportunity. That is responsiveness to the client, and this won't go away. It will always be there. We installed, we launched 2 months ago Buddy Bank in Italy, which is powered by UniCredit. It's a totally mobile bank only. Actually, it's an iPhone-only bank. Apple is our partner. First time in the world they partner with a bank, okay? And 90% of the investment on human resources is in a concierge service. That's it, okay? 50 people to cater for 50,000 clients. You do the number. Isn't that profitable? At least it's low cost. Now, we'll see whether it's profitable, okay? So, omnichannel comes from there, from the top. Legacy should be, decoupled. You got APIs everywhere to integrate internal, external provision. Again, caveat. If you do delegate third parties to develop software on your behalf, you got a security problem again. You have to install within your premises a software validation process. Otherwise, you might end up with backdoors in the apps developed by third parties you don't want to deal with. So there's a sort of sensitivity point there that you have to take care of. What I was trying to convey to you comes from a variety of experiences around the world. So these are actual names of actual clients, actual digital processes, digital transformation projects we have executed, won and executed around the world. I'm not saying that all of these are, fully transformational. There are some limited pilots, some larger projects, some significant projects, a whole variety. But as PwC, I think we are pretty well poised to claim that we know what digital transformation is and what a digital strategy is. Buddy Bank is it's a fully digital bank of the UniCredit group. It's a new concept. When we invented it, I came up with a definition of molecular bank, and it stuck. So even the CEO and the board now, they talk about molecular bank, and in my view, molecular was that the bank had to be composed by the client using widgets out of a store, according to his profile and his wishes. So the widgets were providing services, basically. So you want to know the status of your current account, that's a widget. You want to know your investment, that's a widget. If I have no investment, I don't care about my investments, and so on, you know. Depends on your lifestyle. A youngster will have a certain lifestyle. A person of an older age will have might have a different lifestyle, probably will, okay? Clearly, it is intended for a very well-defined segment of, I would say, social millennials and social urbanites. So this has the focus. But we are now working with them, reconsidering the expansion of this segment to other adjacent segments, at least. And this has been an instant success. Before it was launched, it is the only bank that you can download from the Apple Store, by the way. You launch it, you're up and running, you're in the bank. KYC is 3 minutes, and you can do transactions immediately. Before you do transactions, you have to put some money in. All right? So there's a rule there, and you pay for that. If you don't put money, you pay for it. If you may put money, you put money, and you engage yourself to spend a minimum of €500 per month, you get money back. So current account is cost-free. So a very transparent relationship and communication. This is new in banking, very new, very fresh. Another example is Mbank. As I was telling you before, it's a Polish bank, it's fully digital. Now the mother does not exist, the mother bank, and the only bank that has stayed is the digital one. Another one is a small retail bank out of England. You might have heard his name. Okay, here as well, we help them reconsider all the relationship with the customer, design the user experience, etc. And last but not least, nearby here, Emirates, where we have won our first significant contract in the Gulf, and has been a success story on its own. And here we have designed a host of services for the banks, turning everything they do with the customer now on a digital relationship and a digital experience for the customer. Designing, and again, that was very true that we went through extensive workshops, but the CEO was present in almost relevant workshops. He was there in person. That was a great signal of motivation for the rest of the staff. If the boss is not there, he doesn't believe in that. That's the simple message. It might be wrong because he's got other things to do as well, But what the people see is, if he's there, that's, wow, this is news. So this is important. And so they engage. And when the boss is there and they engage, they want to give the best out of them. So you squeeze the best out of people, okay? By the way, we did the same thing in other banks as well. So to close, do you want to stay like this or do you want to become like that? Plus and up. It's your choice. It's not an overnight, trip. It will take time. You start a journey today. For us consultants, this is great because it will never end the journey. So we are happy about that. But for you, you will start seeing success very soon. If you do it appropriately, you will start getting the big wins out of small wins day to day. And it's like, climbing a mountain. You step after step. After 5 steps, you're still there, basically. But after 1 hour, you look behind you, and you will see the valley down. And you realize how far you've come. Here's the same thing. It's a journey. The important thing is that you know where you're heading to, and you know one step after the other, like climbing a mountain. Take. Patience and goodwill. Take care. Have a good lunch. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this was the shortest and the smartest digital transformation masterclass we could all have been to. I would request Mr. Irfan Siddiqui, CEO of Mizan Bank, to please come on stage to present the memento. Also would request Mr. Shaba Zedi and Hamza Wasi Hashmi to please join him on the stage.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Italy.
Thank you.
On behalf of the organizers, I am really sorry for the people who have to stand on the back, and inshallah, next time when we will do it, we never expected this kind of audience. Inshallah, when we will do, I am really sorry for the people who are standing in the back and couldn't find the seats. Inshallah, when we do next time, we will do in a much larger hall, and we can anticipate a much greater audience in the next time. And on behalf of the organizers, I am again personally sorry for the people who have to stand up to listen to the deliberation. Thank you.